Hi everyone, myself Nitin Heraji, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, AJ Institute of Engineering and Technology, Mangaluru. In this video, I am going to discuss Module 4 from Data Communication. So in Module 4, we are having four different chapters included. So I will be discussing in this video uh, with the DLC services, data link layer protocols, and point-to-point protocol, framing transition up to framing and the transition phases. Then we will be discussing about the media access control, under that random access, controlled access, and channelization. Then we'll discuss about introduction to data link layer, after which we'll discuss about IPv4 addressing and subnetting. So first we'll look into data link control services. DLC, which is nothing but data link control. The data link control deals with the procedures for communicating between two adjacent nodes, that is node to node communication. It does not matter if it is having a dedicated link or a broadcast. So this data link control has a few services. Uh, one among them is framing, and the other one is flow and error control. So these are the two services of data link control. So we'll just see what is this data link layer going to do. So the data link layer needs to pack bits into frames. So whatever data received from the network layer, uh, it will be received as packets. So that will be converted into frames, so that each frame is can be, you can either easily distinguish from one another. So we can give a simple example of framing. Uh, you want to send a letter uh, to a person. So the procedure is that you write a letter and fold the letter and put it in a envelope. So whatever letter you are writing, that contains information, and that information you are going to put it in a envelope. So this is how the data or the information is separated, where we call this envelope as a frame, which serves as a delimiter. Okay. Uh, Framing in the data link layer separates a message from one source to a destination by adding a sender address and a destination address. So in each frame, you will have the source and destination addresses. The destination address defines where the packet is to go, and the sender address helps the recipient acknowledge the receipt. That means when the destination receives the message, uh, it can see the sender address, so that it can reply back with the acknowledgement to the sender. Now, this frames, it can be divided into two categories. One is the fixed length frames, or we call it as fixed size frames, and the other category is that it is a variable sized frame. Okay, so the size of the frame can vary in this case. So in fixed size framing, there is no need for defining the boundaries of the frames. The size itself can be used as a delimiter. That means here, as we said, the frames has to be separated, right, as good as envelopes. So if it is a fixed size, then we don't have to worry. For example, if I say it is a 4 byte frame, so once the 4 bytes are completed, the next 4 bytes will be treated as the next frame. So the separation will be easier. There will not be any difficulty, because since it is a fixed size, we know that what is that size of the frame. If it is 4 bytes, then all the frames should be of 4 bytes itself. So there won't be any headache in separation of the frames or to distinguish the frames. Alright. The next category is variable size framing. We need a way to define the end of one frame and the beginning of the next. This is to differentiate between the frames. So we need to know what is the end and start point of the one frame, and what is the end and start point of another frame. Okay. So under variable size framing, again we have two types. One is character oriented approach, and other one is data bit oriented approach. So there are two types of approaches in variable sized frames, that is character oriented approach and bit oriented approach. So let's discuss one by one. Character oriented framing. In character oriented or byte oriented framing, data to be carried are 8-bit characters from a coding system. Example is ASCII. So you know that in a character oriented, we have to be carried 8-bit characters. Okay, so each character is of 8 bits, and this is also called as byte oriented framing. Okay, character oriented framing is also called as byte oriented framing. Okay, so the header which normally carries is that the source and the destination addresses and the control information, and the trailer which carries error detection redundant bits are also multiples of 8 bits. So you can see header and trailer here. Okay, so both has the multiples of 8 bits itself. Okay, so you know even these are the data, or these are the frames. Okay, sorry, these are the data that are carried in a frame. So this frame is of a variable length. Okay, so here you have variable number of characters, but this each block is of 8 bits, or I can say it as 1 byte. Okay, similarly the header, it might have a number of blocks, but each is of multiple of 8 bits. Similarly with the Taylor. Okay. So next thing is, how do we separate the frames, right? Because in a fixed length, we know after so much of length, you will be having the next frame. Since this is a variable length, so we need to know which is the start of the uh, frame, which is the end of the frame. So for that, we have flags here in the starting of the frame and in the end of the frame. So to separate one frame from the next, an 8 bit, that is 1 byte, again this flag is an 8 bit uh, flag that is added at the beginning and the end of a frame, okay, which is added at the beginning and end of the frame to differentiate the frames. Alright. So character oriented framing, it was popular when only text was exchanged by the data link layers. So which means it is not that great if your data is something else other than that of text data. Okay. The flag could be selected to be any character not used for text communication. So it says that whatever bits, that 8 bits you are going to be using in the flag, that should not be used in the text communication, that is in the data. Any character used for the flag could also be part of the information. If this happens, the receiver, when it encounters this pattern in the middle of data, thinks it has reached the end of the frame. So now this is a problem, correct? That is, if the flag bits, that is 8 bits that is used for the flag, if that same 8 bits are used in the data information, or it is used in the information, in between the information or in between the data, it is a data, but in the what the receiver interprets is that soon it encounters the flag bits. It treats as it is a flag, and it treats that that frame has come to an end, which is a misinterpretation. Correct. So we need to come out of this. Correct. We need to solve this. So to fix this problem, there is a concept called byte stuffing being used. Uh, that is, the byte stuffing strategy was added to the character oriented framing. So we'll see what is this byte stuffing. Byte stuffing is the process of adding one extra byte whenever there is a flag or escape character in the text. So it is uh, byte stuffing. It is the process of adding one extra byte, okay, whenever there is a flag or it is escape character in the text. Okay, it is as good as we are very aware of C program. So if at all you want to print or if you want to give a different meaning, so we used to use a escape character, okay, which interprets that whatever comes next is the simple data. Okay. Similarly here, to interpret that whatever comes next belongs to the data itself, it is not a flag, so we are going to use byte stuffing. In byte stuffing, a special byte is added to the data section when there is a character with the same pattern as the flag. Okay, so we are going to add a special byte in the data section of the frame itself, when you get a similar pattern, that is that of the flag. The data section is stuffed with an extra byte. This byte is usually called the escape character and has a predefined bit pattern. Whenever the receiver encounters the escape character, it removes it from the data section and treats the next character as data and not as a delimiting flag. Alright, so if you look at this diagram, so this is the data from the upper layer, that is from the network layer. You are getting the data to the data link layer. So if you look at this data, there are two blocks here, or I can say one byte here, one byte. Okay, so this appears, this bits are same as that of flag, and this bit is same as that of escape character or the escape bits. Okay, so what to be done? You want this to be treated as the data itself. You want this flag also to be treated as the data itself. This should not be misinterpreted as flag or a escape character. So if this is interpreted as escape character, then what happens? This block, this complete thing will be discarded, thinking it's a escape character. If this is encountered as a flag, what happens? The receiver will think that this is the end of the data, because it is the end of the frame. Okay, so that should be escaped. So for that, the strategy used is byte stuffing. So if you look at this, there is one byte that is being stuffed, which is nothing but the extra byte. We call it as escape byte or escape character just before the flag pattern. And here before the escape pattern itself, we have added one more extra byte, which is a escape character. So what the receiver end it is going to do? So receiver end will receive this frame. Okay, it looks into escape character. So what the receiver will do, it will unstuff this escape character, that is it will discard this block, and here again it encounters an escape. So escape means whatever next should be treated as data. So here also whatever next block is there, that should be treated as data. So flag will be treated as data. Here escape character will be treated as data by unstuffing these two escape blocks. So these two escape blocks are removed, and you get the data like this. So this data will be sent to the upper network layer. Alright, so this is byte stuffing and unstuffing. Okay, which will get you the data without any problem. Okay, the next approach is bit oriented framing. So what is bit oriented framing and what happens in bit oriented framing? Let's go through it. In bit oriented framing, the data section of a frame is a sequence of bits to be interpreted by the upper layer as text, graphic, audio, video, and so on. So here it is common to all the kinds of or all types of data. It is not concentrating on one particular data type as in the previous one. So however, in addition to headers and trailers, we still need a delimiter to separate one frame from the other. So the most protocols use a special 8-bit pattern as a flag pattern. That is, you can see it here, 0 followed by 6 ones and a 0. So total of 8 bits starting and ending with 0 and rest bits with 1, which is treated as the delimiter or the flag pattern to define the beginning and the end of the frame. So you can look at this here in the data section. You can find the difference. Here there is no blocks as such. Here it is a continuous bits going through. Okay, and this is an again variable number of bits. So here there is no fixed number of bits over here, and even this will have a header and a tailor. Also, it has a flag section. Okay, so if the now there is a flag pattern given here. Now what happens if the same flag pattern appears in the data section? So if the flag pattern appears in the data, we need to somehow inform the receiver that this is not the end of the frame. So how to do it is by again stuffing, and here it is stuffing only one bit. Okay, that's by a single bit uh, instead of a byte, which has been done in the previous one, to prevent the pattern from looking like a flag. The strategy is called bit stuffing. In the previous one it was a byte stuffing. Okay, so we'll see how this bit stuffing is going to work, or what is the procedure of this. Bit stuffing is the process of adding one extra 0 whenever 5 consecutive ones follow a 0 in the data, so that receiver does not mistake the pattern 0 followed by 6, 1 and then a 0 for a flag. Okay, so we'll look into this. So here we have a data pattern, correct? This is the data bit that has been received from the network layer. So if you look at this point, you have 0 followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bits of 1, and then you have 0, 0. So here somewhere we need a stuffing. Then here also you see 0, 1, 1, 1, that is 3 1, 4 ones, 5 ones, and this is 0. Okay, so what stuffing does is, when you have 5 consecutive ones followed by a 0, then you are going to stuff 0 as a next bit. Okay, so how stuffing will work? So we know that this 0 followed by 5 ones. So immediately after the 5th 1 bit, you will have to stuff 0, as you can see it here. Okay, that 0 has been stuffed. Similarly here it is followed by 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 4th bit and 5th bit. So immediately after the 5th bit, you are going to stuff it with 0, that is here. Okay, it is irrespective whatever the 6th bit is. 6th bit might be 0 or 1, not bothered, but if you get 5 ones continuously followed by a 0, then the next bit you are going to stuff it with 0. Okay, then the rest of the data here. So 2 bits have been stuffed. So this is in the sender side. So when the frame receives in the receiver's end, again same procedure it will follow. If at all it finds a pattern like 0 followed by 5 ones, the next bit it is going to unstuff. So here 0 followed by 5 ones, and the next bit whatever it is there, it is going to unstuff it. Okay, that is, it is going to remove this bit. Similarly here also, the next bit after followed after ones followed by 0 bit will be removed off, and this is the original data that has been prepared and then sent to the network layer. Okay, So this is that bit stuffing, how the bit stuffing is going to work. I hope you are clear with byte stuffing and bit stuffing. Okay. So next we'll move on to flow and error control. So what is flow control? What is error control? Flow in the sense uh, you simply cannot keep on sending the data where the receiver cannot receive your data. Okay, so that has to be controlled or it has to be managed. And also the error. So whatever data you are going to send, that should not be corrupted or altered when it reaches to the destination. So that also has to be taken care. Okay. So these two, this is the second service that is being provided by the data link control, that is flow control and error control. Okay. Now, why do we need a flow control? So, as I said, so whenever an entity produces items and another entity consumes them, there should be a balance between production and consumption rates. If the items are produced faster, then they can be consumed. The consumer can be overwhelmed and may need to discard some items. If the items are produced more slowly, then they can be consumed and the consumer must wait and the system becomes less efficient. So here you need to manage the producer and consumer ratio. Okay. So just look in here. You have the data link layer where you have a producer who just pushes the frames to the receiver node. Okay, and there should be a flow control that the receiver must be able to receive all the frames pushed by the sender. So the data link layer at the sending node tries to push frames towards the data link layer at the receiving node. If the receiving node cannot process and deliver the packet to its network at the same rate that the frames arrive, it becomes overwhelmed with the frames. So it cannot process the frames. The frames might be lost or something might go wrong if it cannot process the frames received at the rate the frames being sent. So flow control in this case can be feedback from the receiving node to the sending node to stop or slow down pushing frames. So you can see here this is what it is, the feedback given to the sender either to slow down the pushing rate or to stop sending the frame. Okay. So the solution for this is to use two buffers, one at the sending data link layer. So you need to use one buffer at the sender and the other at the receiver, that is in the data link layer of the receiver and data link layer of the sender. What is this buffer? It is a set of memory locations that can hold packets at the sender and receiver. Okay, again here there is a restriction that buffer cannot to hold too many packets or too many frames, even that has a restriction. So when the buffer of the receiving data link layer is full, it informs the sending data link layer to stop pushing the frames. Okay, so this is what's going to happen if the buffer is also full at the receiver's end. Next is that combination of flow and error control. So in a simple situation, the acknowledgement that is sent for flow control can also be used for error control to tell the sender the packet has arrived uncorrupted or the packet has received successfully without any changes in the data. The lack of acknowledgement means that there is a problem in the sent frame. That is, either the frame might not have reached, it might have been lost, or it might be corrupted. So any of these reasons could be the thing. Okay. So flow control refers to a set of procedures used to restrict the amount of data that the sender can send before waiting for acknowledgement. So we'll see what is a data link control protocol. So data link control protocol can be either connectionless or connection oriented. In a connection oriented protocol, a logical connection should first be established between the two nodes, after which frames are somehow related to each other are transmitted, and then the logical connection is terminated. In this type of communication, the frames are numbered and sent in order. So in connection oriented, so this is a thing you have to note down. The frames are numbered and sent in order. If they are not received in order, the receiver needs to wait until all frames belonging to the same set are received and then deliver them in order to the network layer. So before delivering the frames to the network layer, it must order the frames that it has received. Okay. So this is what is going to happen in connectionless. Next we'll see what happens in connection oriented. Sorry, this is what we had discussed about connection oriented. Next we'll discuss about connectionless. So in a connectionless protocol, frames are sent from one node to the next without any relationship between the frames. So there is no numbering concept as such here. The frames are not numbered and there is no sense of ordering. So here the frames are blindly sent to the receiver end. Okay. So this is what uh, we have discussed. I hope you have understood this topic. Okay. Thanks for watching this video. If you like, please click on the like button. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching.